an ordinary day at a Japanese high school, a massive explosion suddenly obliterates everything. One of the girls present wakes up in a dimly lit cave and discovers that she is now a small spider named Komoko, having been reborn into another world. Initially, she refuses to accept her new form, but eventually comes to terms with it. As she attempts to escape from the spider nest, she encounters a colossal spider, which turns out to be her own mother. Horrified to see her mother eating her siblings, Komoko flees at full speed. As she ponders how to learn more about her surroundings, she hears a voice telling her that she has 100 skill points she can use to gain the appraisal skill. Though initially confused, Komoko takes the skill with enthusiasm, hoping it will be as powerful as it is in isekai novels. However, she soon realizes that the skill is only level 1 and provides basic and useless information about her environment. Still, Komoko refuses to be discouraged and resolves to earn more experience points. As she contemplates what she can eat, Komoko realizes that she is surrounded by much stronger monsters than herself. Fearing for her life, she decides to create a home out of her webbing, which she produces like a regular spider. Since she didn't socialize much when she was human, she's comfortable being alone. However, after working so hard, she begins to feel weak with hunger and is forced to eat a spider corpse, even though the meat is revolting. She vows to survive, despite the unpleasantness. Suddenly, Komoko hears a voice again, informing her that by eating one of her spider siblings, she has acquired the title Kin Eater, which grants her access to taboo and heretic magic. However, she struggles to figure out how to use them. Just then, she catches a blue frog in her web, but it begins spitting poison at her. Although Komoko is burned by some of the poison, she manages to fight back and ultimately kills the frog with her venomous fangs, earning the acid resistance skill in the process. Meanwhile, a lavish banquet is being held for students who have been accepted to the Royal Academy. Among them are Schlain, the blue-haired prince of the country, and Carnatia, the red-haired daughter of a duke. They are later joined by Philimos, a blonde elf girl, and Schlain's younger sister Sue, who has turquoise hair. Philimos introduces them to Yuri, a white-haired girl, and a boy named Hugo. As it turns out, Schlain and Carnatia, as well as Yuri and Hugo, were all high school students from Japan who were reincarnated into this new world. Kaneda, who was originally a boy, has inexplicably been reborn as a girl, while another student, Mairi, is now an earth dragon cub named Phi. Philimos, their homeroom teacher in their past life, has now gathered 11 students who have been reincarnated. Back in the cave, Komoko continues to survive by consuming whatever she can find, and even manages to raise her acid resistance to level 2 by eating the frog's unappetizing meat. She recalls how the girls in her class used to bully her before she was reborn into this new world. The following day, at the Royal Academy, Shunsuk has a conversation with Natsum. Although both of them are princes, Natsum is the heir apparent to the throne, while Shunsuk is fourth in line. When Shunsuk expresses his desire to become strong like Julius, his older brother who is revered as a hero in their world, Natsum reveals that he shares the same dream. After Natsum departs, Mairi confides in Shunsuk and admits that she believes being reincarnated as a creature is a consequence of her past actions. She confesses to bullying a person named Wakaba during her human life. When Oka arrives, Mairi asks if she has any information on Wakaba's whereabouts, but Oka informs her that she is still unaware of the person's location. In the cave, Komoko catches and consumes frogs, eventually advancing her poison fang ability to level 2. Suddenly, her skin splits open, and she emerges unscathed, without any residual acid burns. A disembodied voice informs her that she has leveled up to a small, lesser Terratech level 2, and her skills have improved. When Komoko feels something caught in her web once again, she is surprised to discover that it is a human. After freeing himself, the human sets fire to Komoko's web and escapes, incinerating her home. While fleeing from the flames, he accidentally drops a sizable egg. Recognizing the need for a better dwelling, Komoko uses her webbing to construct a larger and more resilient home. After becoming hungry once more, she decides to indulge in the egg left behind by the human. However, it proves to be extremely difficult to crack open. When her appraisal skill improves to level 2, she uses it on the egg and realizes that it is an earth dragon egg. Suddenly, a group of humans arrives and burns her web down once more. Running away from the inferno, Komoko manages to escape, but is frustrated by her weakness. She remembers how pitiful and sorrowful she was as a human, and decides to become powerful in her current life so she can feel proud of herself. In order to gain more combat experience, she spends several days battling frogs and lizards, eventually reaching level 7. One day, while venturing deep into the caves, she is attacked by a swarm of bees and runs away in a panic. After successfully escaping, she falls asleep, but awakens to strange noises. Suddenly, a mighty snake strikes at her, prompting her to test her training against it. By avoiding the snake's attacks, she manages to bind its mouth shut with webbing. The snake retaliates with a forceful blow from its tail, but Komoko refuses to surrender and attacks the snake's neck with her teeth until it perishes. After defeating the snake, Komoko advances to level 10. The disembodied voice offers her the option of evolving into a small or lesser Terratech. Opting to remain small, she chooses to become a small Terratech. As soon as she makes her decision, she loses consciousness and wakes up later. Upon awakening, she notices no differences in her appearance. However, her level has returned to level 1, and her stamina is depleted. After consuming the snake, she realizes that she must now eat significantly more to recover her stamina. Continuing her search for prey, she explores the cave and selects the thread control skill, which allows her to shoot webs faster, and the skill detection, which enables her to detect enemies, using her newly acquired skill points. However, she comes to realize that utilizing detection results in an excruciating headache, prompting her to disregard it. Overcoming more monsters, she progresses to level 2. With an increased level of proficiency in appraisal, she can now view her own stats and notices that her speed is remarkably high, while her other stats are low. Just as she begins to feel self-assured, a group of knights suddenly ambushes her, and upon realizing they are all at level 20 or above, she opts to flee as fast as she can. While fleeing, she becomes sidetracked by monsters and tumbles down a cliff. At the Royal Academy, students gather in the forest for combat training. The students use magic wands to practice water magic by targeting and striking. Shunsu, Kaneda, and Naxum exhibit exceptional skill, while Yuka exerts herself to level up as best she can, but to no avail. All of a sudden, a strong gust of wind begins to blow and knocks the teacher unconscious. A colossal earth dragon emerges, which Naxum perceives as an opportunity to demonstrate his strength. Nevertheless, his fire spells prove ineffective against the dragon, and it effortlessly knocks Naxum unconscious. Moved by thoughts of his brother Julius, Shunsu summons the courage to engage in combat and wields his sword. Kaneda, Yuka, and Su follow suit, and the four of them charge towards the dragon. Naxum recovers and joins the fray, recklessly unleashing spells and transforming the battlefield into utter chaos. Mireille appears and sinks her teeth into the dragon's neck, wounding and distracting it. Shunsu then leaps into the air and decapitates the dragon. He receives all the credit and earns the admiration of everyone, which makes Natsu feel resentful and envious. Mari begins to act strangely, and Shunsu realizes that she has acquired the Kin Eater title. It turns out that the massive earth dragon was one of Mireille's parents. Inside the cave, Komoko is besieged by bees in midair and falls to the bottom of the abyss. She spots 3 snakes that begin to fight the bees. While trying to escape, a level 37 earth dragon named Arba materializes. It easily dispatches both the bees and the snakes. Terrified, Komoko is prepared to die, but Arba turns away and leaves her alone. She activates her stealth skill and decides to hide to the best of her ability, but is disappointed with herself for fleeing once again. While exploring the caves, she employs her praise skill to determine that she is in the lower floors of the Great Auro Labyrinth, which are teeming with formidable monsters. She tiptoes around, but is still unable to find any prey, and her stamina is almost depleted. Desperately searching for something to eat, she comes across small blue dinosaurs that are significantly weaker than most of the monsters around, and decides to attack them. Ensnaring her prey with her webs, she effortlessly poisons and devours them, earning the moniker Poison Master and unlocking the abilities Poison Synthesis and Poison Magic. Utilizing the poison synthesis skill, she creates deadly globules of poison, but remains inexperienced in the use of magic. Suddenly, a formidable, ape-like creature approaches, but she deftly evades it. Soon after, a swarm of them descends upon her from the hallway. After they depart, a small monkey assaults her with its lightning-fast strikes, but she skillfully evades them and ultimately defeats it, causing it to screech loudly before expiring. With this victory, her level ascends to level 4. Seeking refuge, she takes a nap, only to be jolted awake by an onslaught of monkeys bombarding her with rocks. It becomes clear that the earlier slain monkeys' cries attracted the others, now seeking revenge. She endeavors to keep them at bay while using her newfound poison synthesis skill to hurl toxic projectiles at them, but some manage to close in on her and mangle her leg. Despite her peril, she fights valiantly, dispatching the monkey and gaining a level, thereby fully recovering. Scaling the cave's walls with her webs, she initiates an avalanche that entombs most of the monkeys. For this, she instantly ascends to level 7. Suddenly, 3 imposing, ape-like monsters assault her. One pounces, but she expertly dumps a copious amount of poison into its mouth, eliminating it and reaching level 8. Another falls in a similar manner, but the third ambushes her and grievously wounds her. Unrelenting, she poisons the last monster, and before succumbing, her level rises to 9, and she completely recuperates. Exhausted but proud of her accomplishments, she dispatches the remaining small monkeys, raising her level to 10 and presenting her with the opportunity to evolve once more, but she refrains for the time being. Searching for a path upward, she ventures into the middle of the labyrinth, finding a volcanic landscape brimming with magma and evading sea monster-like creatures. In her escape, she winds up back at the bottom of the labyrinth. There, she transforms into a small, venomous Terratech, augmenting all her stats significantly, and unlocks a skill called Pride, which enhances her experience gains. Her Tapu skill also rises to level 4. Earning the title Ruler of Pride, she gains mastery over Abyss Magic and Haze, despite her trepidations. Elated at the growth of her stats and skill levels, she begins training in anticipation of the challenges that await her on the middle floors. At the Royal Academy, Mirai has developed and expanded her abilities due to her battle with the Earth Dragon. Since that event, Shunsuk has earned the admiration of his entire class, while Natsu remains extremely envious of him. Yuka has become an even more zealous believer and is attempting to recruit individuals to a group called the Followers of the Word of God. She is also seeking out those who possess the taboo skill because the followers wish to eliminate them. Mari is worried because she obtained that skill by killing her parents. In the labyrinth, Komoko has boosted her fire resistance and health regeneration abilities. Suddenly, she is assaulted by a formidable earth dragon named Kagna. She flees and returns to the volcanic center of the labyrinth. A seahorse immediately begins hurling fireballs at her, but she is now so nimble that she can easily dodge them. When the seahorse depletes its magic points, it crawls out of the magma lake. Once it is very slow on land, Komoko manages to bite and kill it. While she is consuming the seahorse, 2 monstrous catfish appear and surround Komoko. When one of them opens its mouth to swallow her, she injects poison into it, and it perishes. When the second one witnesses this, it flees. Savoring her first delectable prey, Komoko consumes the catfish. Elsewhere, Julius and his party enter the magnificent Euro Labyrinth, defeating formidable creatures along the way. On the middle floor, Komoko roams around until a potent eel takes her by surprise. Since Komoko has gained the foresight skill, she can now see a bit into the future and anticipate her opponent's moves. However, she still struggles to avoid the eel's swift attacks. Utilizing another skill she has acquired called Energy Confirmand, she strengthens her webs so they do not catch fire and employs them to swing around and continue dodging. After a while, the eel finally expends all of its magic and climbs onto the solid ground to attack. While it charges at her, Komoko pours her poison into its mouth and the eel collapses. However, it quickly employs its own skill to recover its health. Surprising the eel, Komoko wraps its head in her webbing and begins spitting poison at it until it perishes for good. Exhausted, Komoko advances to level 10 and regains her strength. Once again, she has the option to evolve, but first, she constructs a shelter out of the eel. Secure inside her shelter, she decides to evolve into Zoil, a stealthy spider monster with combat skills. After evolving, Komoko gains a sturdy carapace and arm-like appendages, along with a substantial increase in her stats. Cooking the eel from the magma, she savors its delicious meat. After her meal, she opts to acquire a skill called Perseverance, which allows her to survive with only 1 health point as long as she has magic points remaining. However, this also grants her 2 levels of the taboo skill. She notices a new skill called Heresy Nullification and recalls that the headaches she experienced from using the detection skill were caused by a heretical effect. She decides to test it out, and upon activating the detection skill, she no longer experiences any head pain. Using detection, she finds herself perceiving the world as programming code, and this experience boosts some of her other skills. All of a sudden, she hears her own voice echoing in her mind. As it turns out, she has gained the ability called parallel minds, which allows her to operate two distinct consciousnesses simultaneously, each performing separate tasks. She decides to make one of her minds control her body during a fight, while the other strategizes. Meanwhile, Julius and his companions are relaxing in their camp when they are suddenly attacked by 3 advanced terror techs and a formidable spider named Nightmare's Vestige, which is Julius' primary target. Although Julius manages to kill all 3 of the greater terror sects, the Nightmare proves to be a formidable opponent, easily deflecting his magic and moving with lightning speed. By using a spell called Light Field, Julius wounds the monster, but almost kills himself in the process. Suddenly, the Nightmare becomes distracted and frightened by something, giving one of Julius' allies the opportunity to restrain it. Julius then unleashes a holy light beam at the monster, finally killing it. Elsewhere, the Demon Lord, a black-haired girl, stands on the balcony of her castle. She used her powers to paralyze the Nightmare's Vestige in fear, believing it had become too overconfident. In the labyrinth, Komoko acquires the title Ruler of Perseverance and unlocks the Curse Evil Eye skill. She tests it out by attacking an evolved frog with the skill, slowly draining its health until it dies. After the battle, she enhances her appraisal skill and hears a strange static noise for a moment. At the Royal Academy, Uka informs Shunsuk and the others that 11 of their classmates have requested to join her in taking custody of some elves at a nearby village. 4 of their classmates have been found dead, but 3 are still alive, though Uka refuses to disclose their location. Uka cautions them against increasing their skills too rapidly, citing the dangers, but she doesn't elaborate. Later, the students split into 2 groups and venture into the mountains for survival training. Shunsuk ends up in a team with Natsume, Uka, 2 other students, and a teacher. They establish a campsite and split up to explore the forest. While gathering medicinal herbs, Shunsuk is attacked by Natsume, who considers him a nuisance and wants to eliminate him. Natsume has gained several powerful skills and levels, and he reveals that he has ordered his subordinates to kill the other students and make it look like a powerful monster killed them. Then, Natsume plans to slay the monster himself and take credit for avenging his fallen classmates. At that instant, Uka emerges and rescues Shunsuk using her air magic. She claims she has already defeated Natsume's henchmen and then overpowers Natsume as well. Touching his forehead, she somehow reduces his stats and strips him of all his abilities, leaving him hopeless. In the labyrinth, Komoko maximizes her vision enhancement skill and earns the telescopic vision ability, which allows her to see distant objects. She also maxes out her detection skill and ponders how wonderful it would be to gain a skill called Wisdom. All of a sudden, she hears a voice stating that her request has been received by a person named Senior Administrator D. Shortly after, Komoko obtains the Wisdom skill and the Ruler of Wisdom title. Komoko is perplexed and frightened, starting to believe that someone is watching and controlling her every move, as if she were just a character in a real video game. Somewhere else, a girl approaches Natsume and tells him that she too has reincarnated and wants to help him get revenge on Uka. Returning to the students' past in their original world, we see Shunsuk, Kaneda, and a 3rd boy named Kiya relaxing on the school grounds. Eventually, they end up playing soccer with some of their other classmates, and they all get along famously, including Shunsuk and Natsume. After the game, Shunsuk buys some drinks for Kaneda and the other boy and bumps into a melancholic black-haired girl named Shuko, who gazes at him oddly. Nearby, Mori bullies Wakaba with some other girls, but Shunsuk intervenes and assists Wakaba. Back in the other world, Uka informs everyone that Kiya is doing well, but she cannot disclose his whereabouts. In the labyrinth, Komoko decides to disregard Administrator D and carry on with her life as usual. Since she desires to use magic, she employs her wisdom skill to learn about how magic operates. She discovers that she must first imagine magical power as a fluid and then transcribe the runes required to cast the spell. For her first spell, she tries using abyss magic, but the runes are exceedingly difficult to use, and the spell spirals out of control. At that moment, her parallel mind skill advances, generating a 3rd consciousness. Komoko decides to turn it into a magic brain and instructs it to figure out how to use abyss magic. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking, and a deep pit appears nearby. A wounded fire dragon emerges from it and begins to attack Komoko. Employing all 3 of her brains, Komoko avoids the dragon's assaults and starts assaulting it with poison magic and her evil eye, but to no avail. While everything is happening, Komoko's parallel mind skill progresses once more, granting her another brain. However, she doesn't have enough time to utilize it. During her fight with Komoko, the dragon intentionally obliterates most of the rocks, leaving behind only magma. Komoko is now on the last piece of rock and is confronted with the dragon's fiery breath. At the academy, Waka discloses to the pupils that she learned about Wakaba's death. Later, Julius returns from his recent mission, and Shunsuk is delighted to see him. Since the demons are on the move, his next task is to fight them in the Empire. While they chat, he reveals that the Earth Dragon cub, now Mirai, was brought as an egg from a Terra Tech nest 15 years ago. Julius shares with Shunsuk his objective of creating a peaceful world where everyone can be happy together. In the labyrinth, Komoko gets hit by the dragon's flame, but it turns out to be an illusion she created while she's actually hiding on the ceiling. She devises a poison bomb and tosses it at the dragon, then attacks it with her rod attack skill, losing her arm in the process. Nonetheless, the dragon still survives while Komoko's health points are almost depleted. Using her newly awakened brain as her second magic brain, she collaborates its efforts with her original magic brain to successfully cast Abyss Magic, Hell Gate. The spell creates an ominous gate that starts to suck all of the magma inside it, causing severe damage to the dragon. The dragon charges at her, but Komoko traps it inside her web and finishes it off with her Citus. She instantly rises to level 19 and earns the title of Dragon Slayer. Elsewhere, a mysterious armored man notices that a dragon has died and decides to investigate. He teleports to Komoko and tries to converse with her in an unfamiliar language, but Komoko cannot comprehend him. Suddenly, a smartphone appears, and the man picks it up. After conversing with someone in the same strange language, he teleports away, leaving the smartphone behind. The smartphone starts speaking to Komoko in Japanese, and the woman speaking introduces herself as DD. She claims to be the most evil god in the world, reading Komoko's thoughts and watching her from afar for fun. However, she clarifies that she is an outsider and did not create this world before the smartphone vanishes completely. At her castle, the Demon King chats with her army commanders, announcing their plans to wage war against the humans and confirming that Julius will have to die. Later, Shunsuk is suddenly promoted to hero and gains a hero's skills. Realizing that Julius has died, he cries out in despair. In the labyrinth, Komoko decides to put her worries about D aside and concentrate on escaping the middle floors of the labyrinth. While pondering how to allocate her skill points in spatial magic, she spots a straightforward route to the upper floors. At the Royal Academy, Shunsuk, along with his siblings and the king, mourn over Julius' passing. Even though anyone in the world could have been the chosen hero, Shunsuk was selected by chance. A knight arrives, reporting that half of their fortresses have fallen to the demons, while the others are barely holding their ground. The only victory the humans have achieved so far is at Fort Dezaro, where Ronin, the most powerful mage among humans, is in command. The king decides to keep Julius' death a secret for now, not wanting to upset the people. He instructs Shunsuk to leave the academy and begin preparing to defend humanity as the hero. At Fort Dezaro, Ronin, a gray-haired mage, narrates the tale of the nightmare of the labyrinth to one of his soldiers. 15 years ago, Ronin and a group of adventurers, including himself, explored the Elro labyrinth with the goal of killing a powerful spider monster. They stumbled upon a sturdy spiderweb shelter, which they burnt down, unleashing a powerful Zoel spider. When the spider uses appraisal to assess them, Ronin is impressed, having never encountered a spider with such high stats and skills. Suddenly, the spider activates a skill, causing almost all the knights to pass out. Ronin begins preparing to teleport everyone to safety, while the party leader summons various familiars to fight the spider. The spider easily dodges or blocks all the attacks and defeats the familiars one by one. Before Ronin and the party leader can teleport away, the spider strikes Ronin's arm with a black magic spear. Eventually, Ronin and the party leader manage to return to their base, but Ronin believes the rest of the party is dead. In the present, Ronin suspects that the nightmare of the labyrinth may be involved in the ongoing demon attacks, as a Queen Teratek was summoned at one of the humans' forts. Meanwhile, Komoko, who we have been following, is infuriated that her home has been burned down again. It turns out that Komoko is actually the nightmare of the labyrinth from 15 years ago and is the spider Ronin fought. She has also marked Ronin and now knows how to escape the labyrinth. Having reached level 20, Komoko evolves into Yusane, a spider monster with incredibly high combat and stealth abilities. As a result of the evolution, she maxes out her taboo skill, leading to a flood of new information. A month after Julius's death at the Royal Academy, Shuntsu practices his magical skills and runs into Mary. Hoping to assist him in the future, Mary forms a pact with him, allowing him to summon her when in danger. After forming the pact, Mary glows brightly and reverts back into an egg that is preparing to evolve. In the labyrinth, Komoko gains a vast amount of knowledge about the origin of the world, which few others possess. She discovers that, unless something changes, the world is doomed to end, and thus she decides to take it upon herself to save it. To become stronger, she makes a decision to defeat the Earth Dragon Arba. Hyrance, a blonde man and the only survivor from Julius's group, returns to the royal castle at the Royal Academy. He expresses his regret to Shuntsu for Julius's death and presents him with a phoenix feather. Hyrance reveals that Julius gave him the feather, and its magical properties saved him from death. After Julius's victory over the enemy commander and demand for the demon army to surrender, a mysterious girl in white approaches them calmly. Hyrance recalls her making a hand gesture before everyone except him disappears, and he later realizes that the girl turned them into dust with a rod attack. Julius Terrasek's silk scarf is the only remaining item found. Shuntsu acknowledges he will never match Julius' greatness but promises to continue his dream of bringing peace to Earth. To prepare for her fight with Arba in the labyrinth, Komoko battles weaker monsters to level up and acquire black magic, which proves to be very destructive. She learns the hard way that using her annihilating evil eye damages herself and decides to reserve it for emergencies. Komoko invests her remaining skill points in a skill named Sloth, hoping it will be useful against Arba. Komoko sets up a trap and attacks Arba with black magic spears upon his arrival at his base, but he persists in pursuing and attacking her without any signs of slowing down. Although Komoko tries poisoning him and trapping him in her web, Arba proves too agile and swift to be caught. Komoko manages to trap Arba in a web she previously prepared and hits him with all her spells, but he breaks free and uses new skills specifically to counter her attacks, including the strongest flame breath skill. Komoko ends up descending when she reaches the ceiling and has nowhere else to go. Despite her best efforts, Arba manages to catch up to Komoko and impales her with a spear made of rock. To break free, Komoko sacrifices 2 of her eyes to unleash the destructive power of the annihilating evil eye, which destroys 2 of Araba's fingers. She then severs her own hindquarters to escape the rock spike and starts falling towards the ground. Just as she manages to stop her descent and jumps above Arba, he bites onto her and captures her once more. In a last-ditch effort, Komoko uses her raw magic to attack Arba and sacrifices her arms to free herself. Despite feeling defeated, Komoko finds her resolve and remembers all that she has been through. Arba jumps at her again, but suddenly falls to the ground due to exhaustion. Komoko's newly acquired sloth skill drains Arba's stamina faster than he can regenerate it, causing him to self-destruct when Komoko prepares to finish him off. Although she is left angry at Arba's hasty surrender, defeating him raises her level by 29. Meanwhile, at the Demon King's castle, the Demon King recalls his past battle with an Earth Dragon. As Komoko follows the human's path, she finally manages to leave the labyrinth of Elro. Comment if you guys would like a part 2. Thanks for watching.